Today we are covering designing Microsoft Azure infrastructure solutions. To find the complete list of questions and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. If you like this content, do like, share and subscribe to this channel. Question is, you are planning an Azure IoT Hub solution that will include 50,000 IoT devices. Each device will stream data, including temperature, device ID, and time data. Approximately 50,000 records will be written every second. The data will be visualized in near real time. You need to recommend a service to store and query the data. Which two services can you recommend? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Option A, Azure Table Storage. Option B, Azure Event Grid. Option C, Azure Cosmos DB SQL API. Option D, Azure Time Series Insights. Correct answer is option C and option D. Next question is, you need to deploy resources to host a stateless web app in Azure subscription. The solution must meet the following requirements. First, provide access to the full .NET framework. Second, provide redundancy if an Azure region fails. Third, grant administrator access to the operating system to install custom application dependencies. Solution: you deploy a web app in an isolated app service plan. Does this meet the goal? Options are yes or no. Correct answer is option B, no. Next question is, you need to design a solution that will execute custom C-hash code in response to an event routed to Azure Event Grid. The solution must meet the following requirements. First, the executed code must be able to access the private IP address of a Microsoft SQL Server instance that runs on an Azure virtual machine. Second, cost must be minimized. What should you include in the solution? Option A, Azure Logic Apps in the Integrated Service Environment. Option B, Azure Functions in the Dedicated Plan and the Basic Azure App Service Plan. Option C, Azure Logic Apps in the Consumption Plan. Option D, Azure Functions in the Consumption Plan. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, your company plans to deploy various Azure App Service instances that will use Azure SQL databases. The app service instances will be deployed at the same time as the Azure SQL databases. The company has a regulatory requirement to deploy the app service instances only to specific Azure regions. The resources for the app service instances must reside in the same region. You need to recommend a solution to meet the regulatory requirement. Solution: you recommend creating resource group based on locations and implementing resource locks on the resource groups. Does this meet the goal? Options are yes or no. Correct answer is no. Next question is, you have .NET Web Service named Service 1 that has the following requirements. First, must read and write to the local file system. Second, must write to the Windows application event log. You need to recommend a solution to host Service 1 in Azure. The solution must meet the following requirements. First, minimize maintenance overhead. Second, minimize cost. What should you include in the recommendation? Option A, an Azure App Service Wave app. Option B, an Azure Virtual Machine Scale Set. Option C, an App Service Environment ASE. Option D, an Azure Functions app. Correct answer is option A. Next question is, your company plans to deploy various Azure App Service instances that will use Azure SQL databases. The App Service instances will be deployed at the same time as the Azure SQL databases. The company has a regulatory requirement to deploy the App Service instances only to specific Azure regions. The resources for the App Service instances must reside in the same region. You need to recommend a solution to meet the regulatory requirement. Solution: you recommend using an Azure policy to enforce the resource group location. Does this meet the goal? Options are yes or no. Correct answer is yes.